From there, I want to talk about Maason Smith and the 5 places that he has named as finalists for his services. So, Maason Smith turned his focus to Alabama, Florida, LSU, Miami, and Georgia. Okay, Georgia making somebody else's finalist list. 6'5", 316 pounds. Just an absolute monster at defensive tackle. The number 19 overall prospect in the 21 class. Number 3 at the defensive tackle position. And he went in depth with 247 sports analyst Steve Wiltfong about each one of these spaces. And I want to add some context to each one of these as we go. So, in regard to Georgia, said, just the coaching staff, I talked to them a lot. They're really down-to-earth people, and they care. I like that in coaches. They have really good defenses every year. I know they don't put out defensive linemen that much, but that can definitely change, and they play great defense. You could do a hell of a lot worse to play a defensive tackle at Georgia. Same thing with LSU, to which he said, that's the hometown school. Remember, he's from the state of Louisiana. The relationship is definitely there. I have great relationships. They've been recruiting me since I was in the 8th grade, and I have great relationships with them. I talked to Coach O on the phone yesterday, and those are my people. Before Coach Pelini got in there, I wasn't that excited about their defense because they were a lot of 3-man defenses, more of a linebacker defense. When he got there, that changed up. I think that's also important, right? Like one of my critiques of Mike Stoops' defense at Oklahoma is that when you run these odd fronts, you make it difficult for yourself to recruit defensive interior linemen because it's not star position for them. They are not asked to split people and go get tackles for loss. They're asked to eat up blocks so that linebackers can go make plays. Alex Grinch went back to a one-gap scheme. Neville Gallimore ends up a 3rd-round draft pick, and Kenneth Murray's 1st-round draft pick. I'm a fan of 4-man fronts. I'm a fan of one-gap schemes because I want to give all of my players the same opportunity to go eat. Okay? I think Bo Pelini running a 4-3 as opposed to Dave Aranda running a 3-4 matters there. And I don't think there's anything that Bo Pelini could do to get fired this year, though he could be on the hot seat next year if they continue to play piss-poor defense. They've given up 96 points in like 3 games. That ain't gonna cut it. That ain't gonna cut it. No. Regarding the Alabama Crimson Tide, Smith said the accountability they hold towards their players, they put out top-tier guys every year. That's really the end goal. Just the accountability and level they hold their players to is unreal. And I feel like you can never slack off over there, and if you put your mind to it, you can get stuff done. Now, it's Alabama. You know that that's an assembly line. You know that you come in there, they turn you out into an NFL draft pick. Just about whether or not you're going to go in the 1st round or the 5th. Because we don't hear about too many Alabama players going past the 5th. You can do a whole hell of a lot worse than picking Alabama. Also add to that, they have 2 of the 3 top offensive tackles at Alabama for you to go against, right? J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockermeyer. And then there's James Brockermeyer who's going to be playing some center or some guard. Like he's going to get dudes to challenge him and to make him better. I would put Alabama on my top 5 list too, just on general principle. And then there's Miami, which I thought was an odd one to put in here, but here's his thinking. I took a visit to Miami last summer and I loved it. I love their facilities. I love the coaches, Coach Shroud, Coach Baker, Coach Diaz. They always talk to me, and to be honest, that defensive scheme is one I like the most. It's all out attack, and it would let me play free. I've been having a really good relationship with them the past year, and I definitely want to see them again. The U still means something to some of us, right? Like 2001 Miami Hurricanes is one of those all-time great teams, but really, Miami ain't been any all-time great since 2002. Add to that, if Miami would have been able to make it close against Clemson, I think you could probably include Miami as a real contender for Maason Smith. But seeing as they got beat down 42-17, I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think that Blake Baker also might not be at Miami next year because Blake Baker's a really great defensive mind. And they would have to pay him, I think, a little bit more to keep him from jumping to another great program. I like to see Blake Baker at Florida, but that would mean that Dan Mullen got to let go of Todd Grantham. We'll see how that goes, right? Because I want to see Brian Brown get an opportunity at Oklahoma, just like I wanted to see Pete Golden get an opportunity at Oklahoma. Both of those dudes have kind of been struggling here of late as defensive play callers. So that's my thinking on it. But Blake Baker was good at La Tech, and he's good at Miami. And then finally regarding Florida, said Florida's my dad's favorite school. And at first, I was really interested in them. Coach Turner is doing a really good job with the defensive line down there. They were top 3 in the country in sacks. To get to the NFL, you have to sack the quarterback. That's a given. He's a real good coach, and I like it in Florida. Me and Coach Mullen are always talking, and he's telling me it's great to be a Gator. Their coaches, they're all great, but you say that about all these colleges. So very clear to me in there that Mason Smith got him on the list because his daddy wanted him on the list, but I don't think that's where he want to go. And I think if it comes down to where you want to go, probably going to pick the place that's closest to home, which feels like LSU. But there's also been this widely reported, fact that turns to rumor that turns back to fact. And I'm going to unpack that here in just a second. But it is that Korey Foreman, number 1 player in the 2021 class at a Centennial in LA, wants to join Mason Smith as a package deal. The only 2 schools that are on this list that they both have offers to and that they're both considering is Georgia and LSU. Korey Foreman also took a trip to LSU just 2 months ago. And because the Go Tiger fam know what to do down there in Baton Rouge, they got his name on the marquee. They understand what it would mean to get Mason Smith and Korey Foreman in the same class. In a way that I think Georgia fans get it too, but I think LSU fans really want it. I think that's going to matter, especially for a hometown kid. And if you can convince Korey Foreman that this is the best place for him to be outside of USC and Georgia, or even Clemson where he still got an offer, feels like it could be a win for Ed Orgeron and them. Feels like even Bo Pelini couldn't mess that up. Be interesting to watch for, right? Because it turns to fact, turns to rumor, because those dudes will say at one point, we're not really that tied to it. We want to do it together. And at other points, they'll be like, yeah, we absolutely want to just play together. We'll see what it ends up being, right? So based on what they say, you got to take their opinion on it at that time. Knowing that Korey Foreman can't even play football right now also probably factors into what does he want to do in January, which is play, want to at least practice. You want to go through winter workouts. And that's the suck, right? Because there's hundreds of kids that aren't allowed to play their high school football and are just going to miss it because they want to early enroll. And that is where one Korey Foreman is now. So I'm waiting to see how some of these classes shake out, because if LSU get Mason Smith, get Korey Foreman, get Sage Ryan, wow. I mean, you're talking about Garrett Nussmeier, Corey Kiner. My goodness. Like, you got dudes. JoJo Earl, Rajon Davis. That's a nasty recruiting class. That's nasty, right? I mean, that's Ohio State nasty. That's Alabama nasty. That's Clemson nasty. It's nasty. Whereas Georgia is building this thing from the beef out, right? Because you got outstanding play on the offensive line, and you're slowly just being able to add skill players. It's almost as if Kirby Smart only tries to recruit the interior players, offensive line players, first. Like, everybody wants to get a quarterback in, and I get that. But outside of that, is he chasing running backs? Not right now. Chasing wide receivers? No. Is he chasing safeties? Not really. Like, he's building an offensive line and defensive line first because he wants to run the ball and he wants to control you on defense. And if he can make like Cardi B and do the controlling, that's what he's going to do. But that also is a hallmark of Nick Saban, right? Because Smart was a Saban disciple longer than anybody except Scott Cochran. Now Scott Cochran and Kirby Smart are both on the same squad, and that's a lot of fun in and of itself because there's so many Saban assistants all over. And I need to add this. Nick Saban is 22-0 against his assistants, which is stupid, right? It's just bonkers. Hey, I really want to see this one. And I would not mind Georgia getting a win in Tuscaloosa just to make everything a little bit more interesting. Because I still have Alabama picked to win the national championship because that was my pick in January. because I just looked at him and say, where's the hole? And also the way that Nick Saban has been able to keep his kids on task in a way to say Florida has not, right? Baylor has not, LSU has not. That means a ton to me, because that means that the culture is now exactly what every coach wants it to be. It takes care of itself. Goodness me. If you're Maason Smith, you got to take all that into account. I'm interested to see what he does. Still not anybody in the chat, man. Like, that's wild.